In this video, we will be covering how to set up macros and subroutines in your Excel file. So first, we'll need to navigate to our Developer tab and open up the VBA window by clicking on Visual Basic in the Code section. Now under Insert, we see we have several different options to choose from. First is User Form, which we can build as a user interface for users to enter data or interact with data and your code indirectly. Second is a module, which acts as a collection of various codes and macros for you to use throughout your file. Third is a class module, which allows you to build your own objects and assign them properties to use in your code. Class modules are fairly complex, and you can accomplish most simple goals with the use of regular modules. So let's go ahead and insert a module as an example. As a note, you can insert multiple modules to help you organize your code, which I strongly recommend that you do. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how to actually set up your VBA code from this point forward in your module or in your form or whatever you happen to be writing code in. Your code in VBA is actually going to work in subroutines, which are basically the little bits and pieces of code that actually run on your file. And you can put a whole bunch of subroutines in a single module and string them all together to make something awesome happen in your file. There are two ways to start off your subroutine. The first is public sub. So we will type public sub, and then whatever you want to name your sub, so we'll call this example, open parentheses, close parentheses, and hit enter. Now when we do this, you can see the system will automatically put an end sub here for us. That means everything between the public sub and the end sub is the code, and all of this code is the name of the routine, in this case, example. The second type of subroutine we can have is called a private sub. So we'll type private sub, and let's name this one private example, open parentheses, close parentheses, and hit enter. So these are two entirely different subroutines. This first one is called example, and the second one is called private example. The primary difference between a public sub and a private sub is that your public sub can be called from anywhere else. So we can call public subs from other subroutines, we can call them from our Excel file, but we can't do that with private subs. Private subs live within this particular module that we've declared them in, and they can be called from other subs within this module, but they cannot be called from the Excel file. As an example, if we go back to our Excel file, click macros to see our list of macros available for us to run, and we can see only the example macro shows up here, which is the one that we declared publicly. Our private example macro does not show up. The parentheses that follow the name of your subroutine can be used to input particular variables or values into that subroutine from the very beginning. This will be covered in a later video, so we won't get into it here. You may have noticed that when you type certain words, they automatically become blue, such as our private sub or end sub, whereas other words remain black, such as private example. Words that become blue are words that VBA has recognized as keywords that mean something to the code. They tell the code to perform an action or to create a loop, or in this case, create a subroutine. The words that remain in black are names or specific action sets that we're creating. Let's also talk for a moment about green text. If we type an apostrophe, followed by some text, and click enter, we can see the text becomes green. This is a comment line. Comment lines start with apostrophes and end when you hit enter. The system will recognize this line as a comment or note for developer use and will skip over that line in the code. This is really helpful for annotating your code or organizing your code, both of which I encourage you to do. So in this video, we talked about public subs versus private subs, how to create them, and the difference between blue, black, and green text.